I most certainly need to begin by welcoming the many family and friends who have joined us to celebrate today. I also want to express appreciation to Dr. Harris and the Board of Trustees, to Reverend Mark Stromberg and the Northwest Conference, and to the faculty and staff of Minnehaha Academy for inviting me this evening. I'm humbled, particularly considering the fact that I do not possess the pedigree typically befitting a commencement speaker. I've not written any books. I have not been awarded significant or noteworthy accolades, and am otherwise void of the positionality that one might expect from a speaker on a night such as this, with an audience such as this. In fact, when I shared my receipt of this invitation to speak with a dear friend and current Minnehaha Academy teacher, the response I received was, and this is a quote, "Dude, it's a little weird because commencement speakers are usually established people." Nonetheless, I'm here, and while humbled, I'm also delighted, because I rest tonight not on my own establishment, not on accolades or accomplishments, not on words published or positions gained. Rather, I rest on the fact that I had a chance to work closely with many of these seniors, and that is all I need to feel justified. I am here to address students of whom I am so proud. Students that I love. Students that, because they were the last I taught at Minnehaha, will forever hold a very special place in my memory. Lodged in my mind, never aging, frozen in time, always just as they were when I walked out of the building last year. And so in this moment, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a university professor, I am nothing other than this, your former social studies teacher. And it's a pleasure to be with you tonight. Now, it was just about a year ago when I last addressed you, when I shared a story that took place just a few hundred yards from here. It's a story of ingenuity. It's a story of ingenuity, of courage, a story of trust and of friendship, a story for the ages, really. I'm speaking, of course, for those of you who don't know, about that time when my friends let me rappel out of a window in nearby Heritage Hall here at Bethel University using a bed sheet. These same friends then proceeded to laugh hysterically as I plummeted nearly 50 feet to the ground, after finding myself suddenly untethered when my bedsheet rope unexpectedly tore into pieces. Seconds later, I landed on my back in a snow-filled culvert with the wind knocked out of me, but otherwise no worse for wear. Yes, parents, these are the things you can expect from your children, and they're still developing brains in the years to come. And while I fear that not even an excellent Minnehaha Academy education can diminish the likelihood of events such as this, that same education may help your children, say, calculate their velocity on the way down. So that's something. I bring this up for a specific purpose. You see, at a personal level, it's hard for me to stand here tonight and not consider the irony of this moment. Students, I've been summoned here tonight to give you advice and wisdom for your future college years. Advice, wisdom. To all in this room, let me be clear. You've just learned that in college, among many other ill-advised and stupid things, I tore a bedsheet with my bare hands. I tore it around my waist using the knot we teach the 4-year-olds, and willingly flung myself out of a window at great heights. To make matters worse, I recently proposed a do-over with a few of my college roommates, assured in my own thinking that it wasn't actually the strength of the bedsheet that failed, but rather the metal windowsill that threatened the integrity of said sheet and thus caused the tear. And I'm the man from whom you should be taking advice. On the contrary, it seems abundantly clear that a healthy level of skepticism should accompany your listening at this point, given that we all now know, 1, I'm not established enough to be here, and 2, despite time and dollars spent on education, I'm nonetheless prone to making and repeating poor decisions. Yet herein lies the beginning of my message to you. It is not the establishment of ourselves through accomplishments or accolades that justifies or validates us in this world. It is not our ability to always make the right decision that will lead to success or fulfillment in this life. In a moment, you will rise from your seats and walk across the stage to receive your diploma. And as you descend the stairs to my right, you'll be taking the first step of a great adventure. And it would be a shame. It would be a shame if you began that adventure thinking that the most critical component to living a life of fulfillment is yourself. It'd be a shame to begin that journey thinking that the key to it all is your own strategic decision-making. Beginning with what to do after high school, and if that is indeed college, choosing the right college, and at that college, choosing the right major, and within that major, getting the right grades, and using those grades to get the best job, and getting the best job so that you can make the most money, and making those fat stacks so that you can ride off into the sunset on a unicorn named Gerald if you so prefer. It's my dream, at least, but I'm here to share this with you. Last year, I left Ridenour Academy, and like many of you, I went off to college. I went before you, and I'm back to share what I've learned. And that is this: you are not the key to your own fulfillment. It is not the establishment of ourselves through accomplishments or accolades that justifies or validates us in this world, and success or fulfillment in this life is not contingent on your ability to always make the right decisions. Otherwise, we would all be in big, big trouble. At this point, my message may begin to sound suspiciously familiar, like the repetition of a song that once upon a time sounded interesting and inviting, but later turned distasteful and even off-putting. Kind of like any Rihanna song. Anyway, your suspicions are not unfounded. When I say you are not the key to your own fulfillment, you're right to suspect that I'm about to talk about Jesus. This is a trick that camp speakers and chapel speakers and maybe even Minnehaha Academy commencement speakers like to pull. We say something somewhat thought-provoking and then often the most consistently predictable answer possible. As such, I'm guessing that you will forgive me for not going that route. My answer tonight is not Jesus. In fact, I want to focus on a group of people that's least likely to be discussed at this moment. This is your commencement, of course, but I want to talk about everyone else. I want to talk about everyone but you. This winter, my wife and I had the privilege of hosting a man named Chris Stedman for a few days at our new home in Duluth. Chris is an atheist. He's an author. He wrote a book called Faithiest, How an Atheist Found Common Ground with a Religious. And while some of our time together centered on talking about less serious topics, our conversation one night at dinner turned to those things on which he as an atheist and I as a Christian actually agreed. And you know where we started? It was fascinating. We started by talking about others, treating people well, caring for others, loving other people, having an everyone but me attitude in life. Chris and I immediately found common ground here. And I believe that Scripture is abundantly clear on this topic. Humans are called to be others-centric. And this message resonates even with atheists. To support this, there are many verses to which I might call your attention. In the 13th chapter of John, for example, Jesus issues a new commandment. He says, love each other. In the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, we're told unequivocally that one of the most important things we can do as humans is to love our neighbors. This is second only to loving God, by the way, so the commandment to love your neighbor is in pretty good company. But in preparing for tonight, I had to look no further than your senior class theme, which beautifully reflects this truth. Hear the words from Romans chapter 12, verses 9 through 13. Love must be sincere. Hate what is evil, cling to what is good, be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves. Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor serving the Lord. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer, share with the people who are in need, practice hospitality. As I said, my atheist guest and I had no problem finding common ground here. This is because even for someone who rejects the Bible, there is ample secular research to support such a conclusion. For example, consider the work of psychologist Angela Duckworth. She says this: more than your GPA, more than your IQ, more than your SAT or ACT scores, more than your prior accomplishments, more than your ability to always make the right strategic decisions, the number one predictor of success and fulfillment is your character, which she calls grit. On the surface, grit seems to be about us, about our passion and perseverance for long-term goals. Some researchers actually define grit as having an ultimate concern. What's your ultimate concern? And this is where it gets really interesting. Based on Duckworth's research and in collaboration with her, a national group of public charters called the KIPP schools recently began to try and develop this ultimate concern in their students by issuing character report cards in addition to traditional academic report cards. On this character report card, the most critical components are as follows. First, social intelligence, demonstrating respect for the feeling of others. Zest, invigorating others. Curiosity, actively listening to others. And gratitude, recognizing and showing appreciation to and for others. The results are truly noteworthy. Using these report cards, Duckworth and the KIPP schools are finding that they can actually predict which students will successfully survive the grueling academic demands placed on them, which students will graduate, which students are college-bound. Let me say that again. These folks are finding that the most accurate predictor of success is not your IQ, it's not your SAT scores, it's not your ACT scores, it's not your GPA, it's not strategic decision making. Rather, the most accurate predictor is your character and the degree to which students respect each other, invigorate others, actively listen to others, and recognize and show appreciation for others. As Duckworth writes in her New York Times bestseller, grittier people are dramatically more motivated than others to seek a meaningful, other-centered life. That is to say, the research suggests that the most successful people are those that see their work as deeply connected to the world beyond themselves. This stands in contrast. It stands in contrast to the centuries-old paradigm that success is derived from talent. But there's evidence that character and other-centeredness may actually be inversely related to talent, which we measure with such things as IQ and SAT and ACT and GPA. So when I say that you are not the key to your own fulfillment, when I say that it is not the establishment of ourselves or accomplishments or accolades that justifies or validates us in this world, when I say that success or fulfillment in this life is not about always making the right decisions, I mean it. It's not about you. It's actually about everyone else. And the research agrees. I began to realize this after college, though I wish it had happened sooner. I was reading one day and I came across a wonderful and profound statement from a writer named Frederick Buechner. In this reading, Buechner was talking about vocation, which is the idea that what we do for work or a job can be so much more than work or a job. That is to say, vocation is not occupation. Occupation is something that occupies your time. Whereas vocation is more like a calling or a mission or your life's work. And how Buechner described vocation was and continues to be deeply important to me. He wrote that vocation, and this is a quote, is the place where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. Vocation is that place where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. And so Buechner's asking us all a simple yet important question. Is there a need in this world that can be met with your gifts? Where can you give of yourself in such a way that it makes you deeply happy while also satisfying the needs of others? Buechner's words are quite consistent with the verse I read earlier from Romans 12, a verse with a clear focus on loving sincerely, on being devoted to and honoring others, and serving people with joy. It is an amazing verse because it encourages us to amplify and maximize our fervor, our zeal, our joy, and our gifts by pouring it all into others instead of holding onto it for ourselves. This realization has radically changed my worldview. For example, I sincerely believe that the world doesn't need more extraordinarily wealthy people, but it does need more extraordinarily generous people. The world doesn't need more busy people, it needs more patient people. The world doesn't need more people to talk, but it does need more people that listen. The world might not even need more intelligent people, but it certainly needs more thoughtful people. The world doesn't need more politics, it needs more advocates. The world doesn't need people who build walls, it needs people who deconstruct them. We don't need more beautiful people, we need people who create beauty. We need peacemakers, we need healers, we need restorers, we need defenders, we need givers of time and resources. We need people who meet the deep hunger of this world with their gifts. And so I conclude with this. We celebrate you today, we really do. I do not want you to walk away today feeling underappreciated or undervalued. Rather, it is my most sincere hope that you walk away knowing where your greatest value and opportunities lie, which are in finding that place where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. And that sense today is not just about you. It's about the people who might be served by you. It's not you first, it's not money first, it's not America first, it's not us first, it's others first. That's the message. Descend the stage today with that sense of hope for yourself and with that sense of vision for your future, and you will certainly have an impact on this world. A few months ago, I was attending the opening of a peace exhibit at the university where I teach. The keynote speaker proposed something radical to our community. He said that we should consider evaluating the effectiveness of our educational programs, not based on short-term measures like test scores or employment rates, but rather on the actions of our alumni. I agree. And when we look back at the legacy of the Minnehaha Academy class of 2017, many years from now, I hope the actions of this group of alumni reflect the words we heard earlier from Romans 12. I hope your actions reflect that your love for others was sincere, that you hated evil, that you clung to the good, that you put others above yourselves, and that you cared for people in need. Go now to find your vocation and that place where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. Congratulations, class of 2017.